Lawyers, what's a law that isn't real, that normal people insist exists? I'm a contract lawyer, and last Tuesday night my phone rang at 9 p.m. This guy Kevin was screaming at me about how he was going to get arrested for breaking a verbal contract. He'd promised to sell his vintage Gibson guitar to his neighbor Tom for $5,000, but before Tom paid him anything, some random collector offered Kevin $7,500 cash. So Kevin took the better deal. Now Tom was threatening to call the cops because, quote, a verbal contract is always legally binding no matter what. I tried explaining that verbal agreements can be binding, sure, but there are tons of exceptions. High-value items usually need written contracts. Plus, Tom hadn't paid a single dollar yet. Kevin was like, "Are you sure? Because Tom keeps saying I'm gonna go to jail for breaking my word." I told him civil disputes don't land you in prison. Contract breaches aren't criminal offenses. Kevin seemed relieved, but said Tom wouldn't listen. The next morning, Tom called my office. He was yelling at my secretary, saying Kevin hired a dirty lawyer to cover for a criminal. When she transferred him to me, he was ranting about how I needed to educate myself on the law. He kept saying you can sue and win big if someone breaks their word to you. I calmly explained that verbal promises aren't automatically enforceable contracts. There needs to be consideration, meaning both parties exchange something of value. Tom just screamed that I was wrong and hung up. 2 days later, Kevin texted me panicking. Tom had printed these bright yellow flyers with "Know Your Rights" written across the top in bold letters. He was walking around the whole neighborhood handing them out to everyone. The flyers said stuff like, if someone breaks a verbal promise, you can take them to court and get massive damages. It also claimed that lying about contracts is fraud, and people go to jail for fraud all the time. Kevin's other neighbors started giving him dirty looks. Mrs. Wilson next door told her daughter not to play with Kevin's kids because their dad was a criminal. The mailman asked Kevin if he was really going to jail. Kevin felt like he couldn't leave his house without people staring and whispering. Friday evening, I got home from work to find an envelope shoved under my door. Inside was a typed letter addressed to me personally. It accused me of obstructing justice by advising Kevin not to cooperate with Tom's demands. The letter claimed I was helping a criminal avoid punishment, and said real lawyers know that verbal contracts are sacred and breaking them destroys society. It ended with Tom demanding I force Kevin to honor the deal or face consequences for my unprofessional conduct. I'd had enough. I drafted a formal cease and desist letter citing harassment and defamation. I sent it certified mail to Tom's address. In it, I explained that spreading false legal information could make him liable for damages. I also mentioned that filing false police reports is actually a crime, unlike contract disputes. 3 days later, Kevin called me laughing. Tom had apparently gone to the police station demanding they arrest Kevin for contract fraud. The desk sergeant listened to his whole story, then explained that civil matters aren't police business. When Tom insisted that verbal contracts were criminal law, the officer suggested he speak to a lawyer. Tom got angry and started yelling about corrupt cops protecting criminals. They asked him to leave. Kevin said Tom finally stopped the flyer campaign after that. Kevin sold the guitar to the collector and used some of the extra money to buy his kids new bikes. He said seeing Tom get shut down